I've seen a lot of places around the world and far apart. But deep inside, there's only one that's closest to my heart. Wherever I may lay my head, no matter where I roam, Barbados will always be home. I love the open spaces, what a feeling to be free. See, I'm smiling faces, oh, they mean the world to me. A place where friends are family, a place to stand alone. Barbados will always be home. Barbados, yeah. Barbados, Barbados will always be
The Prime Minister's office welcomes you to the Princess Margaret Secondary School for the Ideas Forum St. Philip edition. Thursday, July 31st at 6:30 p.m. This is your chance to come together and share your ideas for the future of St. Philip and Barbados. Submit your ideas to ideasforum@barbados.gov.bb or find us on WhatsApp at 256-4646. Come out, let's gather and share our ideas for a better St. Philip and a better Barbados.
All right, good morning. My name is Nicholas Sinclair, and today I will be providing a few points on what I think should happen here in St. Philip. As a St. Philippian, my entire life, some of the things that I think should happen here is that, for one, we need to use the land for more cultivation. I feel like we need to reduce our import bill and bring down those costs just a little bit more by growing our own stuff. And not only in St. Philip, but in Barbados as a whole, I feel like we need to use our land more wisely instead of it just growing bush and nothing is happening with it. If we can capitalize on that and grow our own stuff, we'll be able to feed our own people in a case where something like COVID, outbreak, or anything of the sort, pandemic, epidemic happens again. And also, I feel like there needs to be more communion here in St. Philip, more community activities. I feel like, especially here in King George Park, which is such a big part, nationwide known part, that persons have picnics all the time. There needs to be not only just sporting events, but just events in general to bring out the St. Philip people more. And let me touch a little bit more on the sporting. I feel like it would greatly reduce the crime here in St. Philip. As we know, there's been a very big spike in such crime happening in St. Philip with the robberies, etc., etc. I feel like we need to give the young people some inspiration, give them a reason to come out and support and try their best to compete, and give them a great incentive for training. Show them that you care. That's all they really need. Just show them that you care. And these are just some of my points on what I think should happen here in St. Philip. And I really love St. Philip. I've lived out here my whole life, and I would really like to see St. Philip expand. Also, just to let us know, I think you should include a KFC as well. Just to add a little humor. Add a little humor on the thought. I was hearing about that since I was like 10. So I feel like, yeah, we got that KFC moving. But that's just some points on me, and thank you.
My name is Tyrell. I live in St. Philip. So I just do landscaping, I think, right now. But really and truly, I would like to get into dealing with animals and livestock and what's not, starting my own business. But before I live right now, I can do it on a big scale, you understand? So I want to start with something small. Like right now I got a dog again, I want to get some birds and things like that, some parrots and what's budgies and birds in general and things. And start breeding and selling with some dogs and other things till they get to the point where I could stand and like on a bigger scale, if you want something me. And then for the community wise, we could get together now. So far I had a couple of events in Market Short, yeah. A couple of events in St. Philip, but you could do other things like football tournaments and things. Because I'm one that do sports and things too, you understand? So like get little football tournaments or probably road tennis tournaments, both in the place, different parts of St. Philip, 6th Road, East Point, Long Bay, and you know what I mean? All about 6 Road, bring the community together, bring people together and things. And then more, it feels so good. You see these sports and like different types of activities and things will bring people together, more positive energy, and like people will see a different idea to certain things. You know what I'm saying? It will probably cut, not saying it will cut on the balance altogether, but at least it will lessen up on the balance a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
When we grew up in this community, it's a pretty good community. Never foolish never happened from it and on that. And we used to come and play games in the road. We even gamble in the road. You know, so how street gambling and thing. Keno, marble fishing, and first catch a corner and what's not. We used to have some good little funds coming up. But we didn't have the street like that. It was a dark area, you know? Everybody brought a light, every place some games and play and things. But since the road do now, you got people like driving down through here now, ratless. So we do a thing already to get some humps, but we never get the humps. So if they could come and do that for me, I would feel so good. You know, to live to see that we get some humps and the little children will be more safer down through here and thing. Because they got a lot of little children book the place now. You know, at one point it wasn't dark in the way. You know, when mother go down to work and tell you, don't go outside in the rain on there, and they got muddy puzzle. Ah, boy. Pepper Pig now come up, but we had that kind of thing for a long way before Pepper Pig. Muddy puzzle is jumping in muddy puzzle, and you get back inside the base before your mother get home and know you outside. Oh, God, I'm going to tell you. But maybe baby won't go here, and we had it like, no, so got a little box here, you put in a roll it, man, and push it up the hill to come down the hill. You understand? We had, there's so much to mention. There's too much to mention right now. Yeah? I believe that if we got more activities in the neighborhood, it will bring back the spirit of the community, bring out the people, to let everybody see that, yeah, bring them back in session again. And the little children, it's all about the little children, because we don't want them to fall into bad hands. So we would like something going on for the past, so that when they got bank holidays and that kind of thing, people like come out and enjoy themselves and things like that. You could get football, a little basketball, a little tennis, anything like that in the community would be great. And what's that? You understand? Even if you live around Brighton and other areas and you could go out your talent, you could come out and show your talent and enjoy yourself.
I think in St. Philip we need more stores, especially that can be accommodating to schooling system, like more stores that have books and stores that have clothing. So we don't have to go all the way to town or Sky Mall Far or Sheraton, because there's how many schools in St. Philip? There's many schools in St. Philip's and there's no bookstore to get back to school supplies. So more back to school supply materials in St. Philip would be great. Also, I think in St. Philip we need to put our children more in a Christian more variety, because there's many churches in St. Philip as well. So I think parents should be more involved in their upbringing in their children, in if you're Adventist in the Sabbath school, or if you're in Sunday school, and they should also come along to help bring up the children to be in the right way of to nurture them. So, because nowadays life is rough and people are always out and about stealing and shooting and killing, but if you put your child in the Lord, they shall grow up in the right way.
My name is Sherlyn Davis, and I was living in Brighton now. They're 55 years old, and what I see, I ain't saying nothing pushing for the young youth in this neighborhood. And I live out here all of my years. All people in this neighborhood is study about cricket and things. They got real talent in Brighton. Real talent. I used to play table tennis at St. George Secondary School and badminton, but just through have issues that I ain't keep up in sports and things. But I got a grandson there at like football bad, and there's no football team in Brighton. We got send we little men out to different places to play football for other teams as young people, and they got real talent in Brighton that these little youths could get far enough talent in St. Philip. They got enough people that in Britain that, especially girls, enough people that retire from doing volleyball and then kind of things that retire from Britain that could train the young girls and things too. You understand? But I want some more things pushing for the youngsters in Britain. I got youngsters that I believe that got skills like Lamar, Lionel Messi, Ronaldo, them top players. They got member youngsters in Britain. I could do them kind of things and get far, but we ain't got the push. We just want proper program in Britain and we could get far. Like how Ellington and them places got good football team, Britain could get far too. I believe I want a more sporting program in Britain for the youth and help them, you understand, push far in life. It ain't all about other people. We want the youth, and that is the regeneration that can come up right now and let it get far in life.
I would like to have sports in St. Philip, like volleyball and netball and stuff at King George V. So it will also stop violence for the silly little young children, and it will bring everybody together and make everybody, you know. I would love to get Cassie 6 for us. But we need to start the violence and things for real and make everybody come together and make awareness.
Wait. Yeah, I come from about the biggest family in Britain at the time. And everything was rosy-dosy, you know. We played in this here back line, as we called it then. Out there was the road going to the 2 mile holes, which I've lost a couple members of the family years ago to when it came down, you know, some of the thing came down and buried them off out there. Now we had a back line, this here. And everybody knew everybody. You can go to everybody's house. You can eat from everybody. We played in what we call the gully. Now down here in Britain, we had 2 sections of Britain. There used to be a milestone right up the street, which if you came from further than there, you were from top end. And top end and bottom end, as we call them here, used to have some good rivalries in any kind of sports at the time. Well, it was mainly cricket. Right, a small bit of football, but riding cycles was a good exercise. We had a lot of games in the street, running and stuff like that. We had a couple of the more recent, more prominent guys. Francis Scott, he was even chosen by Sir Frank Worrell, another stalwart of the West Indies, Barbados cricket empire. And he was a class act, Francis was. And you had the 2 Franklin brothers who, I would say, mainly got into politics, Warwick and Ballon. Their mother and father were bakers, and which up to me, I think, the best turnover I've eaten in my life, I got from them. In them days, we had the fish vendors. They come down and they carry your bites from up Foul Bay. And the thing was who can get the biggest dolphin head, you know, to do a boil thing. And what did we do? We had to go to school every day. Church the same. I guess everything was cool then. But now, the kids, nobody seems to read. And that hurts me. Nobody picks up a book and, you know, do nothing. Ours was compulsory because we had to do homework. We had to do the backyard stuff like most of us had little sheep and little cow and that kind of stuff, and pigs, of course.
Good night once again. Let me now formally welcome you to Ideas Forum, St. Philip Edition. Welcome to the Princess Margaret Secondary School. I'm Roy Morris, Prime Minister's office. Prime Minister should be entering pretty shortly, but we will get going. Let me apologize also for MP Kia McConney. She's on her way. Today is cabinet, or was cabinet. Cabinet is normally meets on Thursday, so we are running a little behind. She should be here shortly. But in the meanwhile, we'll get going. Ground rules again. If you are planning to make a presentation tonight, the first thing you need to do is to go over to the desk at the rear on my right. Speak to the two young ladies from the Prime Minister's office. They will take basic information from you, give you a number. That number will determine the order in which you speak. If you're looking for a bathroom, exit through the door by the camera over here. There are two bathrooms ahead of you. Again, let me warn you, both bathrooms are marked ladies, so if you are worried, just decide which one is for ladies, and which one is for men's ladies. Just knock before you go in, just to be absolutely sure. So we will get going. The first person on our agenda tonight is Mr. Francis Eiffel. Mr. Eiffel, the microphone is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Fantastic. I am Francis Eiffel, and I'm from Sanford, St. Philip, and happy to be here. Good evening to the members of Parliament who are here with us, and I'm hoping that I can add something to St. Philip. A year ago, I brought up some issues here. Some were dealt with, some were not dealt with, some were partially dealt with. And hopefully tonight, I can make some suggestions that will get the ones that were partially dealt with, and the ones that weren't dealt with. I am a farmer, or I am now a farmer. I have farmed for a while, but that was not my major occupation, but it now is. And one of the biggest challenges for farmers in St. Philip is water. Last year, the Prime Minister spoke with me, spoke with everybody, about the plans to have the tertiary treatment plant that is come on stream to pump reclaimed water to the St. Philip area to be used for farming. But obviously that seems to be somewhere off. It's not yet happening. And I have an idea. It's not an original idea. It was actually something that was brought up somewhere around 2004, I think, where whilst we are waiting to get this irrigation system in place, because the current system is woefully inadequate. Last year, I did have, with the help of Minister Weir, some persons from BADMC did come and look at the situation. But the reality is that the irrigation system is overloaded. There are just too many farmers on the few wells that there are. So my suggestion here is that we try to utilize rainwater, but for rainwater we need storage. And back in 2004, there was a project, I think it was somewhere around 2004, it might have been, where it was a do-it-yourself system where you could construct some ferroconcrete storage tanks. And then obviously capture the water off the roof of your house, sheds, whatever, and use that for irrigation purposes. And I believe that that is something that could be looked at again. I myself, I have a 20,000 gallon steel tank, but that is in some disrepair right now. And the guttering and so forth is also in disrepair. But that size of tank is what you would need, something in that kind of region. If you have any significant holding, land holding. The problem with something like that, as I said, that original idea was pretty much do it yourself at home with some concrete and steel mesh and so forth. But we have some better systems nowadays. There are entities that can probably do better construction of those types of tanks. But of course, there's a cost, upfront cost, which is always a challenge for the small farmer. And another suggestion I would put here is the rebate system that the Ministry of Agriculture has in place. Whereas it is a good system that you do get back a considerable amount of money for your output, you have to have the money first. And that is always a challenge for small farmers. So what I would like to put here again is that for projects like what I'm suggesting here, if that rebate could be upfront so that persons can make that investment without too much of a stranglehold, and then we don't have the problem, the pressure of the irrigation system. You will have adequate supplies of rainwater captured to use for your farming. So that is idea one. Sorry? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Quickly on to still on farming. One of the things that we also have is we have a lot of gluts that can ruin a small farmer again. Again, back in the early 2000s, there were extension officers from the Ministry of Agriculture who would come around and they would actually ask farmers, what are you planting? What are you planning to plant? And there was basically a kind of a database. So something like that again, where people have an idea of what is being planted, what needs to be planted, instead of everybody planting the same thing at the same time, big glut, everybody goes broke. So that wraps up farming. Barbados Water Authority. Lots of talk about brown water in St. Lucie. We got brown water here in St. Philip too. In Sanford, I am right at the end of the line. Lots of brown water. I changed lots and lots of filters. There's a hydrant right in front of my house, which was put in specifically for flushing. Yes, Water Authority, you can call them and tell them, hey, come and flush. But I would like to see a system where they schedule it. I have a background in aviation, and scheduled maintenance is one of the critical things. So they should put in place a system where monthly, bi-monthly, they can come, flush the system, and we'll probably have less issues with brown water. Also, that particular hydrant, I think, can be designated for use by the Barbados Fire Service. And again, if they're filling their trucks from that hydrant, less brown water. And yeah, that is about it. There's one other matter, and I see the Prime Minister is there, and I hope that she won't forget me.
Francis, I want to thank you for your hot start. To be very honest with you, I support you. I understand where you're going with the front loading of payments rather than wait for a rebate or rather than wait to get on the incentive program. This is something that we actually started with some of the farmers in the feed program, where, for example, when we did the onions project, we actually gave them all the inputs up front, and then we assist them with some financing as well. So I support what you're saying. We will have to look at it and perhaps present it in a formal way, because you can't do it for one and not for all. So we will have to present it to the cabinet in a formal way to see if the Prime Minister will have an appetite for front-loading that volume of money, and then we can go with it. But I support what you're saying. Secondly, we do have a reservoir at River, and I understand the pressure on the wells over by you, and therefore to get you to a point where you can actually put in your own system is a good idea. We had given some 12,000 gallon tanks to farmers, and this is something that the BADMC will continue to do, because water is indeed a serious problem, and we are trying to work with it to make sure that all the farmers can be given the assistance that they need. We just started a program with the small farmers where they're just growing and we are buying the produce. So between Dr. Claire Jones, Hudson Winter, and Dr. Andwele, they are pushing that program, and I will refer your name to them so that someone could come and talk to you. But in the meantime, Mr. Leslie Seeley is right there. You should know him, and you can give your information to Leslie.
Thank you, Minister. Next up, Janice Marville, sorry. And we are operating with a 5-minute presentation time, remember.
Good evening, Prime Minister, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Janice Marville, formerly Janice Clark of Curtin St. Philip. That's where my navel string is. And the first area, the 2 points I want to make really run into the other. And my first job was teaching, and between 1975 and 1980, I taught at the then St. Martin's Four Roads Primary School, now known as Reynold Weeks. And at that time, you may remember, if you're young enough or old enough, that that was a school that most of St. Philip and other places the parents wanted their children to attend, because we gained the most passes for the older secondary school. So everybody wanted to come to St. Martin's Four Roads. What was not known was that St. Martin's Primary or St. Martin's Four Roads also produced the most children who scored 0 in the same exam. And the Ministry of Education took a particular focus at that time. I was one of the teachers who was sent to be trained to teach children who learn differently. At that time, we called them slow learners, and we put them all together. I don't think that training was I was trying to remember today how long the training was. I went to Ebenezer, where Miss Manifold, who had been trained in the UK, and she trained us to how to teach children who learn differently. When I came back, I was given class 4C, because that was the class where we scored the zeros, because these were the children taking the exam. I was given 18 children, and from very early I realized that there were 18 children, but I couldn't teach them the same way, because they all had different needs. Some couldn't write their names, so my goals had to change. And to go quickly, from the Ministry of Education, Mr. Agard, he was the education officer, he was assigned to me, so he would come to check my lesson plans and to watch what I was doing to make sure that I was in line. The first year that I taught the class, 1 scored 0. The girl who couldn't write her name learned to write her name, and I got 8 passes. The second year, I was given 18 children again, 11 pass, no zeros. I then resigned because I went to do my full-time years at university, and Mrs. Monica Rawlings, who taught me in class 3 at that same school, and who only ever taught at 3A or 4A, she said to me, Janice, I'm inspired by you, and she took the class. 18 students, all passed the exam. What am I saying? There was a particular focus given to students who learn differently. Now we know it as neurodiversity, now we know it as ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, and on reflection now that I know that I had all those children in my class, but I didn't have the knowledge. But what I did have was the focus for these children. And I'm saying, I've been listening and I've been watching, I've even gone to some of the meetings with the Ministry of Education, and I'm not persuaded that we're given enough attention. And I'm saying we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That was just a pilot. But perhaps it is something to look at again. That's my suggestion. In 2007, I had reason to meet with the Ministry of Education, and a senior officer there told me that 30% of our school population had learning challenges or learned differently. That is a significant percentage. I don't know what the percentage is today, but I know that it is still large. What we also know of people who learn differently is that they struggle with self-esteem, with their own self-worth. And run on quickly, I changed careers from being a teacher. I became a human resources practitioner, and I worked for 7 years at Amman Resorts as the human resource director. And what Amman Resorts did was benchmark Ritz-Carlton. So I was sent off to Ritz-Carlton in Boston to see what they did, to come back to see how we could improve what we did here. And one of the things that they did, before you got the face-to-face interview, you had a telephone interview called a Talent Plus interview. And what it did, it was a global psychometric test, really, or assessment. And it measured 11 themes for service. And I'm on to the idea of service because this is one of the areas in Barbados that really edges my teeth. We are so educated, we are so friendly, we are so hospitable, and we still cannot get service right. And so when we started to do the interviews, and I interviewed thousands of Barbadians of all walks of life, all educational background, social background. And what this interview would do, after you completed the interview, you charted the interview on an index. So it showed the top performers globally, the contrast performers globally, and you would see where you measure there. One of the first themes was work ethic. Barbadians were higher than the global people on that index. The second theme was self-esteem, and we always did. Work ethic high, self-esteem low. Self-esteem, I'm not saying that, and this was generally, and every time I say it to Bajans, they push back at it because they think that I'm talking about our educational system, or it's not. It is something different, and I've spent the last 10, 15 years of my life researching self-esteem because I got interested in it there. Because then when Amman opened in St. Lucia, I was sent to spend 6 months there because their telephone system was not as efficient then. So I had to go there and do the interviews. I interviewed thousands of St. Lucians. They would come to me and they would say, "Ma'am, we didn't finish school." So I had to be convincing them that talent is not about whether you finish school or not. And one of the things I noticed about them is that their work ethic was lower than ours, but their self-esteem was going in the opposite direction. And I said to Mr. Taylor, my boss then, this level of service that we have fought to get in Barbados, we're going to get easily in St. Lucia. They opened in October. February, he called me because by that time I was an independent consultant. He said to me, "Janice, how did you know?" I said, "It's not rocket science. They have self-esteem to burn." So I've spent the last 15 years, as I said, researching self-esteem. And I do believe there's an area that I would like to influence further research because my sample for my thesis was 300 people. And I really believe that self-esteem is something that we need to focus on because that is who we are. Our resources are our people. And if we are to remain marketable and competitive in today's world, people will pay money to come to Barbados, but the people who will pay money to come to Barbados are people who understand service. So you see how I hope you see how I'm joining the dots. The other thing that we know, the last point I want to make is that we know research suggests that people who struggle with low self-esteem, who struggle in school, who the system fails, who are unable to get the kind of attention that they require, if they don't get it, these are the people who struggle with suicide ideation. These are those who complete suicide. These are those who end up in the gangs. These are those who end up in prison. You see where I'm going with this? Are you joining the dots? And I'm saying the international countries, they front load, they spend the money in the schools trying to deal with and give support to children who have neurodiversity, because they know if they don't do it then, they're going to have to do it in the prisons, in the gangs, etc. And I finally want to make the point that the violence in Barbados is a concern for all of us, I believe. Whether it's touched us, whether we've been victims, but it's affected our behavior, it's affected our lifestyle. And I believe I have a solution for that. Because beside being a teacher and a HR practitioner, I'm a Bible-believing, devil-stomping, tongue-speaking, washing the blood, born-again Christian. And I believe that the violence we are seeing, I saw an article in the paper that I support, not all of it is in the natural, it is bold, it is unrelenting, it is constant. And I believe there's a spiritual aspect to what is happening. And you cannot solve a spiritual dynamic with a natural solution. And in the Word, God is very clear. He says, if those who are called by my name, not everybody, so I'm talking about national, I'm not calling for national prayer, those who are called by his name. So there's some conditionality onto it. We know what we need to do. And I'm suggesting that perhaps St. Philip could be the pilot where the church's prayer, and we know that sometimes some stubborn spirits, we need to do some fasting, and let us be as bold and consistent and unrelenting and break this spirit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Very interesting presentation. You may be interested in putting together some kind of proposal in relation to the neurodiversity issue and sharing it with us so we could see if there's room for work.
In response to Mr. Morris, I said that we already have. We under our trust, G. Hallie Marville Trust. G. Hallie Marville is my father-in-law. He didn't have neurodiversity as far as I'm aware, but he's the kind of person that this is something he would stand behind, and so we thought that his name should carry it. And in 2018, we partnered with the Ministry of Education and UNICEF, and we trained 93 teachers here. We took the same proposal to Guyana, because we live between Barbados and Guyana, and we trained several of their teachers as well. And then we were hoping to move on from there, but then COVID happened. So we're now ready to take fresh guard. And I've sent a proposal to the present minister, Blackman, and hopefully, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you for your very clear exposition and sharing with us your journey as well. I started in education, but unlike you, not as a teacher. And therefore, some of the things to which you referred resonate deeply with me, because that is what I saw and confronted. In fact, in those days, the ministry didn't even have psychologists properly. And when a 4-year-old child tried to commit suicide, that was when we introduced the program of psychologists in the ministry. And over the years, in fact, when we came to office this time in 2018, the biggest amount of increases initially were in the area of social workers and support in the ministry to be able to deal with the behavioral issues. How many of you have read the Charter of Barbados? I'd like to suggest that everybody go and read it. And when you finish reading it, also look at the mission economy, because mission number 2 is in fact about confronting low self-esteem and low self-confidence, etc. Like you, I am fundamentally of the view that that is one of the major problems confronting us. And that is why, in our own way, we have things that influence us. And for me, I link the emancipation of the mind with the building of the self-esteem, or put it the other way, the building of the self-esteem with the emancipation of the mind. And that is why, for me, the journey of trying to get us moving in that direction is more important than anything else, singular thing that we will do. And part and parcel of it is understanding our history, understanding what has influenced us. I keep making the point, why do we go into a room and Bajans typically sit at the back? It's the first thing we need to understand. And even when we tell people, come forward, I mean, the others know, Roy know if I was here from the beginning, I would have you all fill up all them seats there. And the only reason I hear is because I have the opposite problem. That as Prime Minister, I don't want people to feel all the time that I only want to be in front. But we have to confront this. And that's why Emancipation Day was introduced by us previously in another administration. And I asked myself, in this week between July 26th and August 1st, how do we get more Barbadians, more Bajans to understand and appreciate these things, and not as a fringe event or a fringe movement? Because they are fundamental to who we are, what we can achieve, how we treat to the golden rule, how we treat to the issue of the resolution of conflict, how we treat to the issue of productivity. And I keep making the point that if you, for example, in a hotel, you tell somebody, I would like you to move that plant pot from there to there. And you run the risk that the person might have a damn my job. By the same token, the same person will go home by a manager who treats them differently and limes with them or talks with them and whatever, and help paint the house all weekend for the manager. And when the end of the weekend come, the manager asks you, how much I got for you? He said, for me? Man, you got nothing for me? We is we. And it caused me to realize that the 3 most powerful words in this country are we is we. But it is anchored always by almost a fear and a doubt. So you walk into a room and you didn't necessarily see the person. You're preoccupied. Your mother's sick. You got X to do. You got 5 straight appointments back through. And you walk in the room and you didn't necessarily see the person. You walk in here, play, you ain't talking to nobody. Immediately, without us realizing that if you were that person in that moment, you might equally understand why the person may not have responded to you. We have to find a way of confronting both the past, but also confronting social and emotional learning targets in our school system to allow our children to flourish, and through the children flourishing, to allow the parents who may not necessarily be comfortable with expressing themselves to be able to find that space of comfort. And I hope, if you say you have a program, I hear you, I'd love to see it, because yours and anyone else in the country who has because this has to be a singular goal to allow us to develop that self-esteem and to develop that confidence. There are people who will write gloriously, but if you ask them to get up and say 2 words, they can't say nothing. You do the converse now, you go to the States, and there are people who can talk pretty. And I can't get them to write 2 paragraphs or 2 sentences. So I want, through my office, to continue to associate myself with this, because this is going to be multi-generational. During the course of the 10 days leave that I had, I was rereading Hilary Beckles' Chatterhouse Blues and Great House Blues. And why? Because in understanding what happened to us after slavery, it's all in my head because tomorrow morning is the Emancipation Walk, but in understanding what happened to us after, the Barbadian planters in particular were resistant to emancipation for obvious reasons. They had a good thing going. They accepted it, but what really then drove them was the determination to keep people. And you can hear me talk about it over and over, because as we heard last night from President Obasanjo and Prime Minister Patterson, lest we forget, the tenantry system didn't just get there by accident. And I hope that the media will at some point, especially during the season of emancipation, along maybe with the Ministry of Culture and GIS, start to focus, because you need it mainstream, not just a handful of people, but begin to understand that that located laborers arrangement, where you precluded people from being able to move from one plantation to anywhere else to go and work. And if you wanted to live here on this particular plantation, you had to sell your labor, and it was determined by the employer, the plantation owner, what price he would give you for your labor. That is the closest thing to a form of forced labor that replaced slavery. And that existed almost for a century. So that we need to begin to come to grips with this. I thank you for raising it. I think that all of these things are affecting us, and we have to understand how we can allow our children to be confident but respectful. How we can allow our children to be empathetic but disciplined and focused on what they have to do. And that really and truly, when you look at it, and I know that the Ministry of Education is framing it out, and as I said, he'll be talking over the course of the summer to the country, but fundamentally, I can go and get any bit of information now. So it's not about information in schools anymore. It's about skills. It's about values. It's about attitudes. It's about a habit of excellence. It's about recognizing that it is not just the academic, but also the technical and vocational and the social and emotional learning targets. And if you have a person who has been rooted, how many children you say, how many people you say in St. Lucia there they hadn't finished school, but they still did well? It is about the essence of who they have been shaped to be and nurtured to be that will make the fundamental difference for continued learning. And I can only hope that we as a country recognize this is not the mission of government alone. It's not the mission of the private sector or the church alone. It is the mission of all of us. And that is why it is mission number 2 in the 6 missions that we have as a country. And that is why the Charter of Barbados speaks to duty not just to yourself or to your country, but to others. Because if we don't carry each other along on this small, small space, and we don't understand how to disagree agreeably, how to resolve conflict without fighting, then all of the other things that we are facing will continue to exacerbate. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Jerome Davis.
Good night to one and all.
Please don't take the tune from the Prime Minister. You do have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I intend maybe I'll probably take 3. Okay. Yeah, I did come here with many points, but realizing what the format is and so on, I had a little difficulty in reducing it to just 3. The first one I want to mention is that of traffic congestion. Now, I'm 70 years old, so I don't have to get up early in the morning to make my way down to town or anywhere else to work. But my colleagues, my friends do. And it pains me to see people having to leave home at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to work for 9 o'clock. And what some of them do now, they don't have breakfast at home anymore. They take it to work, they eat their breakfast, and then they maybe wake up for work. And I want to suggest, it's nothing new, it has been mentioned before, but government has not been bold enough, I believe, to try to implement it, but that we should stagger opening hours. It might be difficult to get the private sector to immediately do it, but maybe government could take the lead by implementing such within the public service, where you stagger not work hours, but the opening hours. Now tell me, why should a store selling cloth be open at 8:30 or 9 o'clock? Schools are open at 9. Almost every business here in Barbados between 8:30 and 9. So everybody's on the road at that particular time. And when on a few occasions that I have to travel now, and I see the lines of traffic, I say to myself, if I was still a working man, there's no way anybody could get me in any traffic like that every morning. I would have to be late. I could stay late after, I don't mind, but I wouldn't be in that traffic. So I'm suggesting the government be bold enough to try to implement the staggered opening hours. Second point, Water Authority. I called Water Authority, I think it was about the 17th of June, about a leak. It was just a leak. There's a difference between a leak and a burst. And this one was just a leak, so I wasn't too worried. It's still there leaking. My concern is not so much that particular leak, but when I see a burst, I mean a burst where it is really gushing, and you call at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they get there at 4:30. Now you know how much water has been wasted. I'm suggesting that we could have a rapid response team in Water Authority, which responds within half an hour to every call that says a burst. There's a difference between a leak and a burst. So you hear there's a burst, you respond not to work necessarily, but to assess the situation and determine whether you're going to pull somebody from Gemswick who is working on a leak to go over to some other point where there's a burst. Just as the nurses do, you go, everybody rush to casualty, but everybody's not going to be seen. Triage, and you deal with the ones that are more important first. And I think that would and should work with Water Authority. It pains me sometimes when you see that water just gushing, and you got to wait for at least a day sometimes for them to come and fix it. Sometimes they drive by and they will tell you, but that's not on our order, so we can pass back. You know that. I'm sure you all know that. And the final point, I'm going to be short. Okay? The final point I will deal with is something called subdivision of land. And this affects a lot of people in St. Philip, I know. Sometimes your old grandfather dies and he leaves a plot of land for the 3 siblings. Now, who is going to take up the challenge of paying to get the subdivision done? The main problem here is the cost of putting in a road. Now, I think it was in the budget, I saw one of the ministers say that they're going to extend the time for you to do that. It's not a question of time, it's a question of cost. And I'm suggesting that you're not a developer. These people are not developers. Why are you asking them to put in roads? Make sure that the road is allocated, demarked, whatever the word is, that you put it on the plot. So you cannot put the house on that stretch of land, whatever it is, but you can go ahead and divide the land. That's all they're asking for, the cost of putting in roads. Why you gotta cut it, you gotta put down stone, you gotta pave it. I have friends who are in that situation, and there's nowhere to turn. They don't have the money. There might be 4 persons, but somebody got to step up to the plate to do it, because the others ain't got the money to help either. So I'm asking government not just to extend the time frame, but to do away with this demand that you put in the road. Make sure that when you make the plots out, provisions are made for the land, for the road, sorry. But do not demand that poor people who don't have the money put roads in. And you know what happens when you do that? You're then blaming these people for having vacant lots that they can't maintain. Right? And I go on to vacant lots because I got a little time left. Years ago, I got a minute left, right? Good. I know, I'm timing myself. Years ago, late Prime Minister went after, introduced a measure where vacant lots were taxed at a higher rate than a lot with a house on it. Again, a lot of people in St. Philip have parcels of land. They can't afford to put a house on it, but yet they're paying more than the neighbor who has a big house and 4 cars. In fact, recently the Prime Minister was so kind to you that she removed all the taxes for those people. They don't pay a cent. But you got a little piece of land and you're paying over $1,000 a month for it. You're keeping it for your daughter or granddaughter who's in university, isn't working yet. And by the time she is working and gets a job and gets the money, you've paid for that land 10 times over. Why are we doing that to our poor people? Look, Prime Minister, please look at those vacant lots and the rates at which our people are being asked to pay every year. I know it for a fact. I know it personally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. I guess it stands to me to make a comment with respect to the subdivision of land. And yes, I do take your point for sure in terms of the roads, because that's where the expense is, the demarcation, and also the surveyors coming in, doing out the plot, and then demarcating the road. And we've actually changed that a bit. Is in the past, they actually required a full macadamized road with all the slippers, all the drainage, and all of that. And we've relaxed that to some extent and just asked for a sand and seal road in certain circumstances. But you have to understand that when we also do the subdivision, you have to protect the individual people. Because say, for instance, they go to a bank to be able to, they get the subdivision, but then they have to raise the money to build the house. So it gives them the opportunity to mortgage it. And for often they have to have that protection. So the road is important because you have to also have the services, the electricity, the water, and all of those things. But we take the point and we'll go back to planning to assess it. But it has to do not only with the cost of the subdivision, the standard at which the road is made, but also to be able to give good title.
Thank you, Minister. At this stage, we will invite Crystal Walcott and Company. They're going to do a presentation. Give them a second because they have to set up their computers.
Majority of you can see this? Yes? All right, anything else up? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dijada Messiah. I'm a third-year medical student at the University of the West Indies, Cave campus. I'm also a youth advocate with the Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition program under the Heart and Stroke Foundation. And today, my colleague and I, Crystal, are here to talk to you about a very serious crisis that's going on in Barbados right now, and that is the non-communicable disease crisis. So, the question that we have today is, what is wrong? And the main question is health, right? Poor health, really and truly. The overconsumption of unhealthy foods that has become a pattern that has accelerated in the recent years, and the consequences of poor diet, poor nutrition, and poor health are actually very devastating. How devastating, you may ask? That's it. If I say to you that 66% of adults are overweight and 33% are deemed clinically obese, that means 1 in 5 children 1 in 5 adults, have diabetes. Now, if you take a quick look around the room, there are more than 5 adults in here, which means statistically, some of us fit into that 1 in 5 statistic. Now, I want to bring it home a little closer to you. 1 in 3 children are obese or overweight. And one of the leading causes of NCDs is overweight or obesity. So take that figure, 1 in 3, and think of a classroom of kids, 30 children to be exact. That's 10 children, 10 families who are at risk of becoming burdened by this disease, right? Be it diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, stroke, all of these things, right? 10 futures of buying medications that are ridiculous in pricing. And I'm here to tell you this because I am a part of that 1 in 3 family. My family is plagued by the burden of NCDs. So I'm not just here for show. I'm here because I have experienced it. I know what it's like, and I don't want other people to also experience that. All right? If I tell you that 80% of all the deaths on our island are related to NCDs, how believable is that? So put it quick in perspective. You may hear so-and-so down the road has died. He was in the hospital sick and dead. You will tell yourself, man, I hear that he was in the hospital battling with thing for a while. He was real sick, but here he had diabetes or hypertension or he had a heart attack. That's tough, boy, he gone, but you know? Versus if you hear, oh, wait, 5 people now get shot in Silver Sands. Or somebody just got robbed at 8 o'clock in Warrens. If your perspective of thinking is that so-and-so just died, and you know that you don't have a healthy diet, that maybe you should make towards changing so that you don't end up like that person. And you don't treat that with the same as, oh, well, 5 people were shot in Silver Sands. Maybe I should stay out of Silver Sands. I encourage you to change your way of thinking. Because I'm not downplaying the fact that shooting and murdering are not real crimes. I'm stating that NCDs is a silent killer, just as serious as all the others that are publicized locally, widely, I should say. So what does this mean? How much sugar do we really eat? If I were to say to you that this is a very local drink that we love, right? This is 17 teaspoons of sugar. And this is a drink that's very widely drank. I know people that drink 2 of these in one day, 4 days a week. I'm not liable to say, but you can guess, right? But my point stands. We drink this without realizing. Because I guarantee you, if I show you it in the normal bottle, and you just go in the store and you buy it, you're not going to really know. You just, and wash it down with probably something fried, probably something ultra-processed. You might go home and lay down and relax. All of these are modifiable risk factors, but we don't clock it because they have become so accustomed to us. Check it. When I was growing up, and I'm not that old, but when I was growing up, Sundays were preserved for home-cooked meals only. Sundays nowadays, I could go anywhere that I pass a fast food joint, and I have to wait in traffic. Not because I'm going in, but because I just want to pass, but people are going in to the point it's so full that there's traffic. That's the reality of today, and that's how normalized this has become. Furthermore, on my last point, I want to talk money, because money makes the world go wrong, right? A professor did a study that $375 million of our annual income, well, our GDP, 10% of our GDP, is spent directly and indirectly on NCDs. That is reflective of healthcare, absenteeism, And of that 375, 65 million are spent on diabetes and heart disease alone. All preventable risk factors. That basically means we are eating our economy into hardship. My solution is to focus on the source. We go to schools as part of the school nutrition policy, and we start where it can be changed easily. The kids. We go to the schools, secondary, primary, we talk to them, we learn from them. We explain all of this to them. And we tell them that, hey, this is why this is bad. Yes, you may need sugar to help your body function, but the amount that you consume on a daily is not required at all. So we are encouraging, for our solution, the reinforcement of the school nutrition policy. It's already there. But it's one thing for us to go into a school and say this to the kids. I step 2 feet outside of the school gate, and the same things are being sold all over again. And a legislation that helps support the persons who want to make this change. Thank you.
I still have some points. So coming straight to the solutions, as he would have mentioned, we have the school nutrition policy. The first thing is marketing. We may not realize it, but marketing is a science which takes advantage of children's cognitive, developmental, and emotional immaturity in attempts to build brand loyalty. At this stage, their preferences for foods are being shaped heavily by the marketing of these unhealthy, ultra-processed foods. We want to see the removal of all marketing tactics, from tours to sponsorships, because it is not contributing to maintaining a healthy school environment. Exposure to unhealthy food marketing is linked to increased rates of obesity in children. Legislation. Beyond the policy itself, we're calling for legislation which gives a binding effect to the policy because it is more formal and enforceable, with greater consequences for violation, unlike the policy itself. There's the opportunity to amend existing legislation, such as the Education Act or the Health Services Act, to allow for more robust enforcement of this restriction. And this is critical given that marketing is continuing, so we need a stronger push that says no. And we're flipping the script. When it comes to sponsorships and donations, what non-food beverage companies can we consider, be it the banking sector, retail, hotels, to provide schools with the support that they need, because we understand that it's time to look beyond the major fast food players. And when it comes to importing foods, especially snacks that are intended for sale to children, what options are there that are low in sugar, sodium, and fats? Current products on the market can be reformulated to remove excess nutrients, making them more compliant with the policy. Health is not a privilege, it is a right. I borrowed this from our beloved Prime Minister. This was one of her Instagram captions a few months ago. And each of us in this room knows someone living with a non-communicable disease. And if we think about the fact that 1 in 3 children are currently overweight or obese, they are now at a greater risk of contributing to the NCD crisis that we are facing. Children spend most of their time at school. They develop socially, culturally, and emotionally, but most of all, their eating habits are greatly influenced. If we envision a Barbados where we all come together to make this policy work, then we can make a meaningful change, because this is We Health. Thank you.
Excellent presentation. Prime Minister, you want to say something?
Correct.
Hold it, Prime Minister. Remember, we're going live, so people aren't going to hear you.
No, I said, look, I know that this is a personal journey because, trust me, but you have to try. I used to smoke. I stopped smoking, what now? In 2017, this is what, 8 years? And that doesn't mean that you don't have the urge, but you have to resist the urge. And then for the most part, try to stay away from as much processed foods and tinned foods and as much juice and sweet drinks. I'm fooling you. So water works well. And coconut water. And in a sense, I say so because at my size still I should have worse health profile. But I believe that the reason I have the health that I have, in spite of this size, is because of cutting out those things in the last 10 to 15 years, little by little by little by little. So there was a time when I didn't like fish. Now I eat fish 6 days a week, as opposed to what I used to love. Now I eat that maybe once a month, a pork chop. Same thing with pigtails. Don't eat it no more, other than maybe once every 2 months or 3 months now. So ham, perfect example, and you have to forgive me because I grew up at a time when Bajans ate ham at Christmas. I grew into a world when Bajans eat ham every day. It cannot work, balance. So I eat ham twice a year. Christmas, either Easter or crop over. I missed it for Easter, so I don't need to tell you what is for crop over.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Prime Minister, don't get scared. I have a question from somebody that did not want to come up. The question is, what are the real programs for the parents? And my own comment, I'm a little worried that as a government, and Minister Duguid is going to beat me now, and I'm coming into St. Philip. St. Philip, especially 6 Roads, is rapidly developing. Step out of Princess Margaret's Gate, you meet Chafet, you meet Burger King, you meet many other fast food little establishments. I am hearing now that another fast food establishment is going up. So it's all well and good to say we support the NCD fight and the sugar sweetened beverage fight and the salt taxes and everything, but what are we really doing in terms of the development of the country, in terms of where we're putting fast food restaurants? I live in St. Philip. If I travel to Emerald City 3 o'clock any day, and the children leave these gates, Chafet is full, the snack aisle in Emerald City is full, Burger King is full, and I truly worry, and this is as a normal citizen. I know it's a little touchy where I am, but as a normal citizen, what are we putting in place to, they're already here, but to curtail in terms of the development, town country planning, where we are putting these establishments? If it were up to me, they would never be close to a school. Never ever be close to a school, certainly not in walking distance. And yeah, the parents need a little help in terms of where to go. I'm not sure if talking to parents on the outside, yes, the children are being educated in school, but I think they need a little help and guidance, more of it, in terms of their role in the NCD fight and how their children are eating. That's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right, sorry, I know I'm over my 5 minutes, but I'll be very quickly. Right, so in response to knowing where to go, the biggest thing is education, yes. The Heart and Stroke Foundation, and well, I should say the Childhood Obesity Prevention Program, really, we are working with we're working to put measures and have put some measures in place on that goal of educating. Because for me as a youth, I'm 24, to be very specific, people in my age group don't know how to cook. That's very concerning. And outside of that, even people 2 years, 4 years older than me don't know how to cook. So sometimes I don't like to go although I say like, sugar bad, right? Well, I said sugar bad, I should say. The primary issue I have seen a lot of the times is that the ignorance to how to take care of yourself in that regard. It's easy for me to walk down the road and spend $20 to buy something to eat that I could just go home and chow down and then be cool afterwards. But then to sit down and say, all right, well, vegetables, $12, with a ready meat, ready starch. You understand that's a real concept for some people. So having those provisions in place, and we would like some more assistance in doing that, I will say that. But certainly having the facilities for that, teaching facilities, educating facilities, hands-on training. I remember when we first started tackling this, the canteen concessionaires is where we focused especially because, you know, there are canteen concessionaires in schools, and in schools they serve all of the processed foods. We trained canteen concessionaires. They were rewarded for their training. They appreciated the training because to them it's like, well, this is what people want. This is what gives us the most money. And I don't want to take money out of nobody's pocket that I can't give them back. That's certainly true. But for them, no, it's more than just that. They are able to create different things that help support us, that in turn support what we're trying to achieve, which is a better, healthier Barbados.
Thank you. Give him a hand. I think it was an excellent presentation of sensitization and information. We look forward to working with you some more on this one. Shakira Neblett.
Good night, everyone. Okay. Good night again, everyone, and Madam Prime Minister. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Shakira, and I have studied criminal psychology and social justice and community studies. I live and worked in Canada for the last 7 years, and I came back and I started my business here, which is probably like 2 weeks now. But I had some good clients and customers so far, and as I say, I had clients and customers, and they had told me, well, this would be a good opportunity for people to come and hear me out and get more with the society, because I studied criminal psychology and social justice and community studies. Now, when I studied in Canada, and I have my points here, so don't forget anything. Where I dealt with some issues in Canada, and I was seen for my leadership, and I've held events where it was like over 150 people, and I was then nominated for my leadership by the community and by professors, and I was given an opportunity to meet Obama. It was other students as well from different Caribbean islands, and there I was the only Bajan there representing us. And yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself to begin with. So I came here to talk about the crime, because that is my field, and I want to talk about the jail, schools, and the different weapons that is coming into Barbados. So to start with the jail, I've been in plenty of courts in Canada, whereas I've seen different people come and go and return, and although they're convicted, they come back out into society, they don't know where to go, and then they end back up in jail. Now, my thing about this is that I've seen plenty of big men cried like babies in court, and what they usually say is, I don't want to go back to jail. I'll do anything, but I don't want to go back to jail. My thing is with Barbados now, and I keep hearing people say, I don't got no problem going back to jail. My thing is, why are they so comfortable going back to jail? This is telling me that the slap on the wrist needs to stop. I have here my notes. I think they're too happy. They get three meals a day. I don't even eat that much. And as I keep telling my mom, we used to go down to the office. We have to move out the road for them to pass. No, my thing is, I remember when I was younger, there used to be the prisoners working the grounds and planting crops and stuff. Why is that not happening? Why are they not doing these things? I think they need to start working their skills. Carpentry. If there's hurricanes in Barbados, why can't they help repair our homes? Why can't they help work and repair buildings? I'm saying this with some civilians. I mean, like, police can watch them, make sure they don't escape and stuff like that. Another thing too, Barbados is full of talented people, especially in jail. So why not let them show their talent? See if the community can benefit from their talent, even if they sell art, or they know a sport, or like women, if they're good at hair and stuff like that. So when they come out of the jail, that they can use their skills instead of going back to the crime that they're committed because they're so comfortable committing that crime. I was also saying, why can't they plant food like they used to when I was younger? I remember seeing them in the field, as I just said. Why can't they plant food and help the homeless in Barbados or the less fortunate so that a child have a meal to carry school? So that's just some points I wanted to put on jail. Now, my second point now is school. Now, although I just started my business, I've heard a lot of stories. And I've talked to people that also work in some schools. I'm not going to get into details because you all know how it is with minors, right? Now, for example, I know a girl who wanted a career development. That's what I do. I help with CVs so that when they leave school, they know how to work. They get their skills and stuff and experience up. Now, there's knives and stuff in school, like weapons in school. I want to talk about that. There's some students that is doing well academically, right? But because of the amount of violence in school, it is dropping, repeatedly dropping. They don't want to go to school. They're scared to go to school. When a teacher asks, so what's really going on? Nobody wants to talk because they're so scared. Now, after all the youth then is not academically there and everything is dropping, what's to say what's going to happen to our youth a few years from now when they graduate and they don't have any jobs? What are you going to do? So this is just another point that I wanted to put in terms of schools. So I wanted to talk about observational learning, which is also known in psychology, and that is children watching their parents. You're surprised to see the amount of things children know that adults know. And another thing too, there are so much gangs in school. I do not know if people are aware of that. And it is, as I said, children are afraid to go to school because of these different gangs. So my thing is, instead of just putting them out of school and then they have to return to school, and it's to the point that it's not only in school, but out of school, they're in trouble with the law. Why are you keep returning these students to school to then hurt the other students who are willing to learn? Why not create a boot camp? Whereas when they go to this boot camp, they can still learn, but I believe like soldiers can help with discipline, respect, and different things like that, so that it separates them from the children who's behaving well and learning. More activities in school. The more activities a child does, the less trouble they get into. Why not put more activities inside schools? As some person, I think this lady mentioned, and Honorable Mia mentioned, was social and emotional learning. I wanted to add that to my business as well, but I was thinking it through, and I think I'm going to proceed with that, because that is a very important point. Then I want to talk about weapons. I'm wondering how much weapons is getting into Barbados. Why? You cannot tell me that at some point you do not know where this is coming from. Y'all remember that case where the man was driving, I think it's called him Van Wyck, and the little boy behind was like, I want my mommy, you remember? Why it is that you can't get these youngsters to talk? Where is the weapons coming from? There's some place it is coming from. You cannot tell me that you do not know. Also, if you go to Canada and you go to America, you notice that there's biometrics. I'm wondering if biometrics is here, whereas you do not know who's coming into the country that is willing to commit crime and leave the country. Is there background checks on these people? As I always tell my mother, there's certain crimes that Bajans don't commit. I can hear about a crime, and I say, Mom, that ain't a Bajan. We don't do that. So who are we letting into our country? Why not get fingerprints and forensics where that it can trace back to the person that committed the crime? Also, in terms of the airport, I would like some more random checks going on. Not just, oh, because this person got lost, as some people say, although I got lost too. But as certain people say, I want more random checks. If you see some person more suspicious, call them one side. Ask them, like, just question them, why are you so nervous? You never know who could bring in drugs. There was a case a time back where some person was held because of drugs, because of a dog sniffed their suitcase. Get to find out the person did not have drugs. It was a setup whereas some person touched their bike and gone along with the drugs. We need to use technology in searching what is entering our country more. And
interruption at the start, you're beyond your 5 minutes.
okay, let's one more thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the last thing then, I just wanted to say if you can use drones some more, just to survey like the places, see like blocks and different stuff like that with selling drugs and the shooting and stuff, whereas it could just, you know, just monitor certain areas. So that's just my 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shakira. Your points are appreciated, but there are a couple of things that I would have noticed that you take things for granted. There are lots of things that you mentioned that are already taking place, but you don't necessarily spout what are security measures, but the advice and the suggestions are appreciated. Joyanne Haig. You live in St. Philip?
That's good. Yeah. I think that should work. Yeah. I have heels on. Thank you. Good night, everyone. My name is Joyanne Haig. And yes, I live in St. Philip. I have been living here since 2003, many years. So they've accepted me and adopted me. Right, Naval? Thank you. So before I get to my point, I wanted to commend the presentation on health, simply because a couple of months ago, like everybody else, you know, we hear about diabetes, and then I took a doctor to tell me what I needed to do. And so I am now battling that. Thankfully, it's not at the insulin stage, but it is at the stage that I wish I knew then what I know now. And it's costly to go to doctors. It's costly to get tests. It's costly to check your intestines, your gut area, everything that pertains to your pancreas, all of those things. So I want to commend you for doing that and for coming forward. We need it more, and we need it more for our children at least. So hopefully it's not too late for me. I still have a vice or two, but I would like to say that I don't use sugar for the last 4 months, and I'm very happy about that. And hopefully I'm on my way to living a better, healthier lifestyle, and I encourage others to do the same too, because it's not a good thing. So to get to my point now tonight, I want to speak about crime. I live in St. Philip. I'm not living in fear, I will tell you that, but I am concerned because I know that there are more law-abiding citizens out there than there are not. There are more of us than there are them. However, they're making the place a little bit miserable, and I think, as the Prime Minister has asked all of us to all hands on deck to see what we can do, I'm hoping that I can make a contribution here like everyone else. So for starters, I want to start with the schools, and I would have spoken to the Minister, Chad Blackman. I mentioned it to him, and I've asked if I can expand a little bit on one point, and I would like to suggest that parents, both at the primary level and the secondary level, that we get them to sign a contract that states that they may be financially responsible. And I say maybe because obviously there may be some things that have to be investigated. But if your child comes to school and steals, your child damages, your child injures another student, your child injures a teacher, your child injures a member of staff, of course they need medical care, somebody has to take responsibility for that financially, including that of the buses that we've seen being defaced in new buses by school children, which I'm not sure if the buses have cameras, and I hope that they do. So I am hopeful that if we can get them to sign this contract, both parents, and doesn't matter if your father is not present, if once his name is on a birth certificate, he then should then bear the responsibility too, because government cannot come into my house or your house to tell you when to do homework, when your child should be off the street, none of that. But what government can do is to mandate your responsibility to your child at school. So if your child engages in those types of things, when they come home, mommy or daddy will then have to look into the bag or wonder, what have you done? What are you costing me? You keep costing me money. I just had to go repair the walls. I had to paint them over. I had to give back somebody their lunch money because you stole it. You came home with a cell phone that is not yours. All of those things. Parents need to be held accountable. And if they do, they'll pay more attention, especially the fathers who don't, because if your name is on that school's contract, and that contract at the school because you happen to be on the birth certificate, daddy, wherever he is going to pay attention to that little boy or little girl because he knows that he'll have to pull his pocket in order to clean up the mess. So I am hopeful. It's low-hanging fruit. I don't know if it has to be legislated, but to ask a parent to sign a contract, I'm telling you, I have asked many parents before I came here. I've done my homework. Would you have a problem signing a contract as a parent? No. And any parent who tells you that they have a problem is a parent that probably has a problem, and they probably have problem children, because anybody who says no to something like that clearly does not want to see what is best for this country. So, Minister, I am hopeful that that is something that you can consider with your team, and as quickly as September, because we want to be able to get the parents more involved. And this is the only way I believe that we can, because government cannot mandate anything else outside of this. They cannot mandate how you treat to your child at home, but this definitely will help. The next point I have would then be for the community. Prime Minister Motley has asked again all of us to assist, and if you see something, say something. We support the police service, we really do. I know they always get their guy. Unfortunately, it does not always work out in the way that we all want when we see them walk for whatever reason. However, I am asking the Prime Minister, as the Minister in charge of finance, if consideration can be given to support the neighborhood watches by allowing Barbadians to have access to duty-free cameras and solar lights, at least up to 10 duty-free cameras, ma'am, and 4 solar lights for every house. It doesn't matter if you own the house, you rent the house. We want to be able to tackle this problem. But if you allow us and give us the tools, or meet us halfway at least, then I think we'll be your neighbor's keeper better. We can set up better neighborhood watches. We can then put everybody on WhatsApp. We can even put up signs. We don't even need the traditional, oh, this is protected with security. Do like what the Prime Minister says, if you're not from boat here, keep from boat here. In other words, that's the sign coming into your neighborhood. Be creative, but get together as a community and look out for each other. So if somebody coming to your house and you're at home, you don't know they're coming to your house, but your neighbor, you know, it always said that Beja's malicious. This is the time to be malicious. This is the time to figure out, okay, somebody is lurking around my neighbor's home, call them. Or the neighbor could be at work and can see the cameras from their cell phone. People are saying that crime is expensive for them because they have to put in all these measures. I am just asking to ease the Barbadians and to allow them the access, duty-free access to cameras and to solar lights to support us with our neighborhood watches. And the last point, money again. I took the liberty of having a meeting with Crime Stoppers, wanted to understand how it worked. And we do see it advertised on television along with the telephone numbers from the police force, 211, Crime Stoppers, and another number which I can't remember. The problem is that the public, some members of the public don't like to say something when they see something because they're worried that information will get out. Crime Stoppers does not work like that. The police station, people are skeptical because one, there's caller ID. Two, they normally ask you, what is your name? So that is really separate from Crime Stoppers. So I am hoping that if we look at Crime Stoppers, ma'am, and perhaps look at the finances of Crime Stoppers, when a person is captured, or should I say escapes after being captured, there should really be a bounty on their head, which means that the money from Crime Stoppers, for example, could be $3 million, which is a joint effort between the government and the private sector to put this money as a bounty. When that person escapes, if they do, immediately it's a $5,000 bounty. If you want people then to help you find guns, these guys want money. That's the bottom line. If it is that you have money attached onto information, successful information. So if John Brown is deciding that he wants to rob and he going to rent a gun for $100 to only get $150 and end up shooting somebody, why not then say, okay, it's $2,000 for every gun that we could find if you give the information, and it's another $200 if it's more than one gun, $20 a bullet. In other words, you're snitching to get rich, not snitching to get a stitch. So it's like snitches get riches, and you can really actually change that whole thing because people in the neighborhoods, I'm telling you, would give up their mother if they knew that money was attached. We will get the guns off the street, most of them, while at the same time government is tackling the guns at the port with all of the methods, all of the things that they're putting in place. We need to get them off the street. Similarly, drugs. You pay for every kilogram, you can pay for every pound. Make it into, I don't want to say the word business, but make it a little interesting, because if the man wants money, and he does, what do you think they do it for? They do it for new shoes, they do it to impress girls, they do it for the cruise. That's why they do it. They don't do it and do a Robin Hood thing and say, well, let me steal from the rich and give to the poor. They're not even stealing from the poor. They're stealing from us, from poor black people that even have less than them in a lot of cases. So I'm saying to the government, if some consideration can be given and work closer with Crime Stoppers, where it is confidential, the information goes to Canada, it is not even shared with the police other than the tip. Your name is not even given in, and how that money is collected would be something that Crime Stoppers is willing to promote. But they do need the funds. They didn't send me here to speak. I went after them to ask the question. So I am here now to put it to the government, to put it to the public. Prime Minister, you said, you share the burden. We want to share the bounty now. We want everybody involved and put something like $3 million in a bounty to be shared amongst Barbadians so that we can get the information that we need. They will get the money that they need, and if they get the money, then they don't really need to steal unless obviously something is wrong with them mentally, but that's a different story with career criminals in some cases. But in most cases, it's desperation, laziness, yes, but I'm hoping that those 3 points are taken under consideration, ma'am, and we can sort of move forward. It's not the solution 100%, it's low-hanging fruit, and something that we can do almost immediately. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joya. Reinvel Blenman.
Good evening, Madam Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Renval Blenman, Ren for short, R-E-N, and not W-R-E-N. W-R-E-N, that's the bird. I like to sing all right. Now, in reply to also Madam Prime Minister, the reason why I sat in the back, because for the last 25, 30 years, I've been sitting in the front. But I'm retired now, R-E-T-I-R-E-D, and I turned around and R-E-T-Y-R-E-D. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, there are a couple of things that are of very serious interest to me. Number one, I'm a thoroughbred Philippine. I was born in St. Philip. I'm not going to tell you the year because I'll be giving away my age. And I was educated here. And I left Barbados in 1967. My parents and myself, and we took off to Canada. And of course, I completed my education there. And I had a very wonderful father who was also a member of the Royal Barbados Police Force back then, for over 30 years here. And I left here, went up to Canada, and he rejoined in Canada. My mom was a nurse, so of course, I had discipline on both sides. Now, I'm very, very serious when it comes to discipline, law and order, rules and regulations. Because anytime you lose law, order, what do you have? Total chaos. Total chaos. And we don't need that. So we have to come up with some ideas. I realize at this time that we're doing our boys in blue are doing, and the girls are doing a very wonderful job. I compliment them. They're doing very well. I also will let you know, I have, due to my father's background, I also have a background in law as well. Not legally, but from the police perspective. Because when I completed high school in Canada, I thought I would follow my dad's footsteps. So I enlisted for 1 year. And something happened in Canada. There was another Barbadian policeman who left here, went up to Canada. His name was, some of you might know him, Percy Cummins. Percy joined the force in Toronto, Canada. And he was a very brilliant policeman, I will admit that. I'll tell you that. He was very brilliant. And if he had stayed in Barbados, he would have been a commissioner as well. Now, while he was in Canada, Percy was so brilliant that the chief of police in Toronto started to push him. So there was a situation where something went wrong, and unfortunately, Percy lost his life. His wife brought him back here, and he's resting at the Westbury Cemetery. Last year, she passed away, and she's back here now, too. So I backed away. My wife said to me, I don't want to lose you. I don't mind even if you're a garbage man now, but you come out of the force and you relax. You relax.
Mr. Blackman, we don't want to lose you either, but you only have 5 minutes.
I know. Thank you. Okay. However, to fast forward, I find that the contemporary parents here, they lack proper parental skills. We need to get them up on proper parental skills. It's falling behind. Now, I realize that the children, they are not very well disciplined as well. Some, not all, I will say some. Let me qualify that. Because there are some parents who definitely try, and there are some who are not really giving it a serious thought. We need to get that sorted out. Otherwise, you will see what's happening now. They're going down the wrong road. Now, my dad, going back to him again, he always said to me, son, when I come home, let me find you in the house with a book. And there was good reason for that. He always stressed that education is extremely important, and a sound, solid education. As the mighty sparrow said, children go to school and otherwise later on, what's going to happen? Thank you. He was not wrong. He was extremely right. And I made sure I followed my goal to make sure I got myself a solid education. When I was in class in Canada, the teacher said to me one day, he says, Renville, where did you learn French? I said, I learned it in Barbados. And also Spanish. And even Latin back then. And he was quite astonished. You know what he said? He says, the system in Barbados is extremely on top of the game. It's extremely on top of the game. He was quite surprised. Of course, back in the 60s, there weren't many of us in Canada at that time. But now it's quite different. So let me remind you, parents, make sure you instill in your children, they must get a solid education. Because if you leave here and you go anywhere else in the world and you're not with it, you have had it. Or I've listened to our dear Prime Minister on the world stage. Nobody can touch her. Nobody can touch her. She is sharp. Sharp. Not even I wouldn't call him my friend in the United States of America, because I'm worried about him. I'm very worried about him. No. So let's get that one sorted out, number one. Number two, the crime situation, which is up my street. Madam Prime Minister, my idea about this crime situation, if you're not going to the University of the West Indies, when asked, you're not going to the Barbados Community College, you're not going to the Polytechnic, there are many other courses now like Coursera that's online that everybody has the advantage of getting involved. Do something with yourself. Pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. Don't just sit around on the block and waste time or waste your life. Get with it. As a matter of fact, as they say, take off the rose-colored glasses and smell the coffee or the roses. Let's get with it. Pull those children back. Pull the horses back. Okay, pull them back. Now, last but not the least, let me mention something to our dear Minister of Education. Congratulations to you, number one. Number two, I worked in an office here for the last number of years, and I must say, I was astonished to see 16, 18, 20, 50, and one or two 60-year-olds come in front of me and sat in an office in front of me. A simple application form, name of applicant. Sir, what is that? Name of applicant. And they're asking me, what is that? Now that says something. It says something, and there's no doubt about it. Let's not fool ourselves. We have a serious problem to deal with. Education. They cannot read. I've just embarked on a program at my church, St. Martin's Anglican, of community outreach, because the spiritual aspect is also very important. Let's not run away from that. It's very important to see if I can assist in getting things rolling in that direction. Right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you to Mr. Blandman. Guy Wilcher.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Guy Wiltshire. I was a former resident of Ragged Point Lighthouse. I am here tonight to discuss what we can do to bring it back to its former glory. About 50 years ago, the beam from the lighthouse became automated. The lighthouse keeper's job became outdated, and the lighthouse became abandoned to the raging wind and rain. It is still the tallest structure in St. Philip and can be seen from miles away. That is why visitors to the island always make a visit there. I would like to know why can't the government make it into a park? It is a wide open space, a lot of room. The community is becoming heavily populated from returning nationals like myself, and visitors and the people in the area will love it. That's number one. Number two, I want to talk to you about Hurricane Janet. It hit in Barbados. I was about 8 years old. I will never forget it. I was living in New York when the towers fell. I see people jump. That was bad. I was a cop here at the Trent, Bridge and Harbor Police Station, when the Cuban flight crashed. All of those bodies come in squashed up. That was bad. Hurricane Janet. I wouldn't hope nobody experienced a hurricane like that again. It came from the east, and it hit the lighthouse. We get the full brunt. You see this? The lighthouse is made up of soil stone, not blocks, and it was shaking like this. I remember the house was full. People come to visit the shelter from the hurricane. I remember my grandmother screaming, the lighthouse again come down, the lighthouse begin kill all of us, we dead. And my father, he was a lighthouse keeper there. That's why he was living there. And he was saying, no, the lighthouse again come down, it built wrong to withstand the hurricane and whatnot. Everybody thought we was going to die. That is why when the Prime Minister was on the TV the other night talking about prepare for a hurricane. Look, the hurricane by itself is not bad. The after effects, you can't go anywhere. The electrical poles, the telephone, everything will be all over the place. You can't go anywhere. That's why she's telling people to stock up on food, and she's right. Stock up on non-perishable food. Corned beef, sardine, anything that's non-perishable. I hope to God anybody experience Hurricane Janet? You, George Griffith, you? That's not true. You are younger than me. I was 8 years old. But anyway, listen. Stock up on non-perishable foods. A hurricane is nothing to play with. That is why when you hear the Prime Minister go on TV and talk to people about prepare for the hurricane, she's right. I experienced it. I know what I went through. I don't know when I hear about the hurricane coming, I tremble. Please. Okay. Look, I'm sorry to went off the mark. But we want the lighthouse fixed up again so people can come and enjoy the scenery. I lived back there in the 50s and 60s. When you go up in the lighthouse, you can mark the places with the lights, the plantations, Sam Lars Castle. District C had a big light there. You know, those prominent places. There was no lights, you know. But you go back there now 50 years later, you go up there. I visit Empire State Building. When I visit it now, I think I see New York City. It is easily the most beautiful place you can see in Barbados. The light in Barbados built up now. So when you all get a chance, I think the government could make a lot of money from the lighthouse. Because tourists are always going up there and say, look, I want to see up there, I want to see what the island look like from the lighthouse. It must be beautiful, especially at night. My goodness. So, I'm saying this to say this. You all people here get behind the government, fix the lighthouse. You all can come and take a look up there and see what it look like, okay? And also get behind the government to fix the lighthouse. People can come there and enjoy the park. It's a beautiful place, okay? Anytime you all got a chat, no. Oh, thank you. Miss Burgess, she's from up there. Anytime you all get a chance, go to the lighthouse now, and you could take a beautiful view of the West Coast and the East Coast. Beautiful view, okay? That's all I have to say. Give me applause now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Our final listed participant, Alexi Charles.
Yeah, good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. My name is Alexei Charles. I am an artist, an art teacher, photographer, a whole lot of stuff dealing with the arts. What I came to speak about was, I guess you can say, need for more intervention with the arts within Barbados on a whole. For me, I would like to see more spaces where we as artists can hone our skills or produce things as artists. For me as a teacher, teaching visual arts, I find that when you come from the primary school level to the secondary school level, majority of students have not done art at all. And that's a bad thing. And then you find students don't see art as a viable way of making funds or making money in any type of form. And you would see that nowadays, art is a good way to make money, whereas social media, whereas people doing TikToks, people doing podcasts, stuff like this. So my idea is to see how we could create spaces, whether it be open space with different studio spaces for people to come and create stuff that could be put up online, ways that people can make a living from this and make it more viable for us as artists to make a livelihood from this and not just...
Alexi, let me interrupt you. I haven't done it for anybody else tonight. Be more specific. You're being abstract. So, if you were making a presentation for an art space in St. Philip tonight, what would it be? Where would it be? What would it look like? What would you like to see? Who should it cater to?
Okay, so in terms of the art space, it could be a warehouse where you could have multiple rooms in this warehouse where a room could be set up for people to do music production. We have many musicians coming from St. Philip. We have Stetson Wiltshire, we have Blood, we have so many other musicians that come from St. Philip that could aid some of these young upcoming artists to deal with stuff relating to music. You could have rooms where people could come set up to do podcasts, set up to do recordings of video podcasts, do stuff relating to movies, short films, different things like that. Could also have spaces where people could do art-related stuff, where it could be doing paintings, photography, all these different things could be all housed in a warehouse facility. It could be in Six Roads. I don't know if Six Roads has any more space, but it could be in Six Roads because Six Roads is a hub right now for activity. So that's mainly what I'm thinking of could be a good way, because to me, right now, as an artist, I don't think that there's much facility, because I went to BCC. The teachers at BCC told me they wanted an art gallery for the longest time, and I am 31, and there's still no art gallery, right? In terms of national art gallery, per se. So trying to find ways that we could build up arts in Barbados so that the children that I am teaching can see that art is a viable solution for them in the future.
Good evening, everyone. That is my son, so I'm sharing the space with him because I was told he's the last. My name is Denise Charles, and I'm here to speak briefly about family advocacy. My husband and I run a charity which we've been running since 2008 called Better Blends Relationship Institute. And we focus a lot on empowering couples, individuals who are to be married, who are already married, through workshops. We do lots of work with church groups and other types of groups who invite us in to speak to them. We do our own social media posts. We do lots of content creation to help people feel energized about having strong families. Now, there's a lot in Barbados that we are concerned about when it comes to the state of the nation. Yes, crime and so on, we've talked about that. The state of the family is critical to changing the trajectory of the nation when it comes to crime. And we've heard talk about the fact that we need to have more children. People aren't getting children like before, right? And because of that, our nation runs the risk of not having the type of population that it needs to push the type of development that we need. So I would really like to see initiatives added to what we currently have. I know that there's the recent paternity leave for fathers, which is great, but we have to find a way to make building of families, if for want of a better term, sexier again. We have to find a way to help young people to see that they have a responsibility to build legacy, okay? Because we have a lot of young people, educated young people, middle-class young people, choosing not to have children or having only one child. And that does not augur well for a future, a Barbados future that is strong and productive. So what we do in terms of family advocacy, we would perhaps want to expand what we do to more families across the nation. We've recently started something called Strong Love Community, and the focus is on building strong love, strong marriages, strong families, to build strong communities and a stronger nation. That is actually something we see as our mandate. And we really believe this passionately, not only because we've been married for 40 years, but because we really want to see this nation thrive. I got married young, yes, but I was raised in a home where my mother taught me values. And I am who I am today through and through because of my mom. Yes, I also learned a lot from my father. And we cannot negate or we cannot minimize the role that parents play in shaping national values. It is not just something out there for the school to do. Okay, it is critical that we get it right at the level of the home, and government must become intimately involved in building strong families, helping people to understand what love is, helping people to see what committed relationships look like, what marriages look like, so that this is going to redound to the success of the nation, and we can't leave it up to chance. Something that my husband always says with respect to relationships is that we have to be intentional. We are intentional about everything. We want to lose weight, we go to the gym. We want to succeed in our careers, we study more. We apply ourselves more. We want a better vehicle, we save the money to get that vehicle. But when it comes to family life, we sort of think it's going to happen automatically, and it won't. It requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of knowledge. Even though I got married young, I did a lot of reading and engagement with knowledge to help me be who I am today, right? So I'm going to end 1 minute with a poem. I don't think it's a minute, because it captures the role of family, and to echo what Janice said, the role of God in our lives in terms of helping us to be who we need to be as a nation. Knees planted, this is called Prayers of My Mother. Knees planted on hard ground, hands clasped under chins beneath sleepy, cloudy eyes. An air of reverence filled our bedroom then. But there was no letting up, no getting up, because the time for our ritual morning devotions had come. My brother and I and Mommy knelt each morning at the crack of dawn to make our petitions known to God. My mother's God was as real and as steadfast as the cold metal of the old brown bedstead, with the basket of colorful flowers with a blue ribbon tied, painted in the middle and just above the side where we knelt to pray. Let the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Followed you throughout your school day, chiding you, reminding you, fearing you, daring you to not tell that lie to teacher when you were the one caught with the black lead that wasn't yours, even though you were tempted to invent some sorry tale. But sometimes you forgot. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, was real. Because our trespasses to be forgiven were many, And Mommy made us recite the Lord's Prayer together and then say our own prayers with whatever words we chose to talk to her God. For her God was our God, and our God was a good God and a kind God who loved all the little children of the world, including the willful, always stubborn, wicked ones like me. Because I often felt wicked. Because I loved to back chat and talk back and dance wildly behind Mommy's back when I got the chance. Because I was not compliant like my brother, who received the gift of a Bible when he was maybe 12. I really can't remember. So the days we knelt for bedside prayer became too many to remember till one day I knelt with my own sons, and like my mother, taught them to pray. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart. Words nestled deeply inside my tear-filled, joyful mother heart. So that one day their children will clasp hands and close eyes and still peep and wipe sleep away and wiggle on hurting knees, yet stay and repeat the old prayers that their great-grandmother taught me. And with that word, let's be encouraged to train up our children in the way that they should go so that when they are old, they will not depart. We have to nurture legacy for national development. Thank you so much.
Powerful closing words. All right, before we allow the three MPs for St. Philip a very brief wrap up each, the Attorney General will speak.
Good night, everyone. I feel like a bit of an interloper, but I think it is fortuitous that I always make it a point to attend Ideas Fora. And tonight, I've heard the expressions of concern about our crime situation. There's a lot that has been said, and believe you me, there's a lot that the Prime Minister, her National Security Council, me as AG, and the police service do on a daily basis to deal with the crime situation. But unfortunately for me, I'm not like Indar. Indar can talk about everything that happens in agriculture, from trying to get rid of courage to giving people free fertilizer and sorting out water and shooting monkeys. There's no part of agriculture that has to remain confidential. There's no part of the arts. There's no part of health, national development. But a lot of what keeps the Prime Minister and myself awake at night, matters of national security, are things that regrettably we are duty-bound to keep confidential, but we believe that the results are being seen, and I'm not sure if he left, the gentleman who praised the Barbados Police Service for the work they were doing. I'm so glad that there are a few members of the public who are willing to look past all of the challenges and acknowledge the diligent and successful efforts of the Barbados Police Service. So, young lady, I don't remember your name. Not your fault. I don't have many brain cells left, especially on a Thursday, Friday night. What was your name again? Shakira, yeah. And I'm so pleased. I hope that we could perhaps have a minute or two to chat after we finish here. I will be pleased to make your acquaintance. I am happy that a young person, he must be about 25, is willing to weigh in on the all-consuming area of crime, not just from a standpoint of being critical, but from the standpoint of offering, of highlighting some issues and offering some ideas. And I don't want to throw cold water on anything that you've said, but the truth is, much of what you've highlighted are already embedded in our national security system. So when you talk about turning away people from the airport, from as far back as 2007, when we prepared for our first Cricket World Cup, we put a regional security structure in place so that every time a plane or a ship leaves someplace to come to Barbados, they have to send us what is called the advanced passenger list. Every time. If they don't send it, they can't come. And that list is not a list that gets sent and you just glance at it and put it in a filing cabinet. That list and the name of every passenger on that list is, to use the technical term, scrubbed against a number of watch lists. What you will not see or will not hear of are the many occasions, some probably as recently as this week, when individuals were respectfully but firmly told, you cannot enter Barbados. Doesn't happen every day, but it happens often enough that I am satisfied that it is a system that works. We're not going to get everybody because everybody's name is not going to be on the watch list. Everybody's name will not be on the watch list, but it has worked for us, and we've been able, we think, to protect Barbados from some fairly heinous criminal activity by keeping a lot of those people out. Believe me, it works, and we've invested in other kinds of things. I'm not going to go into all the things that we're doing. I can't. But believe me, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, whether it's technology. You mentioned forensics. The Forensic Center is about to reopen. There's a lot that goes on to help the police in being able to conduct intelligence-driven operations. When you see the police do a lot of these things, it isn't guesswork. They didn't happen across it, pass and see that a fellow look odd. Sometimes that happens, but a lot of it is intelligence-driven. A lot of it is technology-driven. Can we do more? Yes, and the Prime Minister, and in fact, the government as a whole has always said that citizen security must have the first call on the national resources. That's why we're able to invest in new vehicles for the police service. We are putting cameras in 6 roads. We're going to put a police station in 6 roads. We've just opened a substation. Indar, Kay and Sonia have been constantly, I don't want to say quarreling with me, but they have been remonstrating about what they have long recognized as an increased set of criminal activity in this area, and it has compelled us to put a substation in the 6 roads area. But you probably have recognized that we've had some success in terms of some of the serious criminal activity and arresting a few individuals. So that is just a temporary substation. You can anticipate, I hope very soon that we're going out to designs. We've already allocated the land, and we will have a proper police station and a proper court for St. Philip. Joyanne, Joyanne, you mentioned some initiatives. I don't know if Chad plans to speak, but you will, yeah. But again, I'm happy to say that some of what you've talked about is already being done. And for the first time last year, the government, through our crime prevention program, actually gave a fairly significant amount of money to Crime Stoppers to help them to fund their work. So it's not a gotcha moment, it's just that we've recognized the importance of the work that Crime Stoppers does. And we've given them little $10,000 before to help them with school programs, but we felt that they needed a significant injection, and therefore we gave them a very tidy sum last year, and I believe that it is no longer in my portfolio, but the intention is that we will continue to fund Crime Stoppers in succeeding years. As for a reward scheme, a bounty, it is, I suppose we could say, largely alien to Barbados, but the National Security Council has actually begun the discussion with the police service to see exactly how that would look. From what we see on television, and I know that I also only have 5 minutes, more. But from what we see on TV, people talk about, a reward. You're offering a reward. There are some unique mechanics to a reward, because all of us could call in a tip. But as Naval would know from his policing days, only one of them might be the one that causes the police to apprehend the criminal. But every single one of you can say that it's me that handed the tip. It's me that caused the man to get caught. So there are some niceties that have to be worked out. But suffice to say, we've begun the discussion, and I can't tell you it can be $3 million. I'd rather spend $3 million in a police station. But it is something that the government is receptive to, as long as we can work out the logistical issues. To the people of St. Philip, let me thank you especially for your patience. There's still a lot more to be done. I am happy to have spoken after Miss Charles, because, where's Miss Charles? Right there. Your poem, my father was an ordained minister, and I always boast about that, but morning devotions was a part of my existence. I didn't keep any with my children, probably because I was out working when I should have been praying. But I have no doubt that the message that you're giving, and in fact I think you ended in with those lines, is that we need to go back to basics and recognize that it is how we raise our children that determines how they turn out. The police have been arresting young boys with firearms, and they're how old? 17 and 18 and 16, and 16-year-olds have been killing. Well, where was your son when he was 16 years old? At school. And you were checking his bag when he came home, he was doing homework. Okay, so one of the things that we need to acknowledge is this crime situation did not, and I'm walking away as I finish so that I can stop talk. This crime situation is not something that grew up overnight. It wasn't a mushroom that, it wasn't there yesterday, I come out this morning and said, well, I'll sit there. The seeds were sown a long time ago. And like any challenge, whether it is, and I see our healthcare people here, it takes you years to get diabetes, but there's no instant cure. You have to change everything in order to get it reversed. The Prime Minister and I, and we call on him all the time, you do, we do too in Cabinet. Barbados wants to have crime statistics from the 1970s, but we want to maintain a lifestyle that has all the characteristics of 2025. Now, believe me, that is trying to fit a 1-inch bolt in a 1/2-inch hole. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. It is good to be in a room tonight with people who actually truly care about the community, because from family to food security, from education to parenting, from water to preservation of heritage with the lighthouse, the interests are wide, the ideas have been meaningful, and it is good to be part of a community that cares about itself and cares about each other. And so my message to you tonight is thank you. Continue to keep the ideas coming through your MPs, through the Prime Minister's office, and through each other. Make sure that we continue now not just to make these ideas, but we turn them into action. I'm happy to be a part of that with you. Thank you and good night.
Good night again, everybody. Since Dale took 4.5 minutes of my time, I will just speak about 30 seconds. First of all, thank you all for coming out today. It made St. Philip look good. As the Prime Minister says, we is we, so we show up. What struck me most this evening, and I have to admit it, I forgot your name, please forgive me, Janice, the comments you made, she said Janice. Margaret, Janice, comments you made with respect to the education system, it makes me feel good, because I know now, I always knew it, but I know now more so that there are Barbadians among us who can contribute significantly to the reform on education that the government is fighting to see happen. And I am totally impressed by your comments. I see it with respect to the self-esteem, and it struck me some years ago the difference between a child that lives in the US and a child that was brought up here. If I asked a child from Barbados what was wrong with him in my office, they'd look back at the parent. If I asked a child from the US what was wrong, they go off on a tangent like Dale would talk when he's in a good mood, or the Prime Minister when she's in a better mood. And it was obviously to me the difference in the culture of the two countries. So I totally agree with you, although I do not have the formal education on what you have. The other group that I strongly support, and the Prime Minister knows this, anything on health, you have my full support with respect to the NCD. I am here for you. You haven't called on me yet, but I'm here for you nevertheless. I think this is a continued, I want to say a continued start. It's a stupid phrase, but you know what I mean. To bring it to St. Philip in terms of the fight against NCDs, which costs more than most things. Me, William, I had a rousing argument. We're still arguing, but we will share that another time with you in terms of how the difference between what I stand for with the NCDs and not. In essence, though, all of you made fantastic presentations. You have made me proud. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you and good night.
Good night again, all. I see Roy nodding at me, but I thought that after I spoke in the beginning that would have been enough. Let me start by saying, first of all, since my head is gray and I don't remember so well, let me start by thanking all of you for being here tonight. I'm indeed very pleased to see all of you in this hall tonight. I at first was worried when I came, but I'm sure that I can rely on my St. Philip family to always come out and support. We just came off a regathering 2025 and our theme being sugar. I am happy to note that you have presented us with the love and the sweetness that we deserve as MPs in this constituency. But I'm even more grateful for the opportunity to see all of you in forums like these, to be able to interact with us, to share your views with us. Because most times you will find that we don't get a chance to come around as we would really like to. But creating opportunities like these give us a chance to hear from you and to give the government a chance to be able to respond to what you, the people who elected us as a government, are asking us to address. And I think that that is a very fair way to run a country. I indeed am very proud of some of the contributions, even they were all great contributions, but some stood out with me. I have to mention that Jerome Davis, in his contribution, speaking about working hours, and the Prime Minister would have mentioned this at several times during Cabinet as well. Work hours, it is really difficult on mornings to get children to school in traffic and have to contend with all types of backlog, all kinds of traffic going into Bridgetown. It is one small space, and we all try to file into one small area. And so the issue of working hours resonates with me very well. I believe the time has come with Barbados in the 21st century to be able to address staggered hours and give us a chance to de-stress a bit when trying to get to our working place. Equally, I would also say that, Francis, you've always been on the front foot, and I support you. I said that already. I think you have a lot to offer, and I think we should capitalize on using you and your experience, not just in food security or agriculture, because most people in this room may not know your work in aviation as well. And I believe that we have enough talent in this room for us to continue to share. Please feel free to use my constituency office to send information. The landline actually takes WhatsApps, 546-2416. I've given my mobile number, 266-4423. Do not spend time calling me. Send WhatsApps, and I respond to WhatsApp messages. So I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I equally want to thank you all for the support you have given St. Philip during the regathering 2025, and I look forward to seeing you more often in forward like these. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Prime Minister, do you want to speak?
I don't know why I'm walking out, because I'm going to be less time than it took me to walk up. Let me say that every time I come to an ideas forum, it makes me proud to lead this country. At a time when democracy is at risk and under threat in so many countries across the world, the fact that we can continue to engage meaningfully, and believe you me, the ideas which come from here, the office that Roy leads up, are required to be able to be distilled and for us to be able to make genuine decisions about what you, the people of this nation, and in this particular instance of St. Philip, want to see and how to see. Like everything else, government is about prioritization, but I believe that 70–80% of what I've heard here tonight, between, as Dale told you, some of it is already in train, some of it is where we want to go. The difficulty of running a small country, especially one that is facing reduced populations, is that it's the same handful of people doing everything. And therefore, it's a question of what you extract, when and how, and there is still a work-life balance for people who must work in government, because it's not only the MPs, it's also the public servants. And as you know, I am proud also to be Prime Minister of a public service that for the most part, the officers come out to these sessions and they hear firsthand too what the people are saying. And since St. Philip used to be that place where perhaps I spent more time listening to Calypso tents than anywhere else, and if not in St. Philip, from St. Philip at Dover and wherever else, Steve said, it has not escaped me that tonight is the 31st of July, that it is the night before competition, and competition in any other part of the island might have a different set of people wondering, what competition are you talking about? But competition in St. Philip means one thing, pick of the crop, because you have done more to direct people there than perhaps any other parish. So it has not escaped me that you have come out in spite of tomorrow being competition and in spite of the fact that queue is short there in Burton tonight. So it really says a lot. I want to wish you all a safe crop over, and I want to ask the country to enjoy this long weekend, but to remember that to be safe. I do not forget my grandmother telling me that she don't like bank holidays because people on a bank holiday don't drive like how they drive on other days. And these are the small things. As I say, I'm sure many of you had the same conversation from your parents or grandparents. But these are the things, Denise, that you were really referring to just now. These are the small things that, when taken together, make us who we are. And to the gentleman from Canada, I believe he left, I want to thank him because he reminded us in the context of his speech about discipline. To the youngsters who came, the young medical professionals, I say power to you, because your duty is not only to make money, but it's to live a purposeful life. And the fact that you are here, even before qualification, trying to make that difference, I want to encourage you. Janice, the Minister of Education, is there. We're looking for people to help lift weight because, as I said, we're trying to reverse over 3 centuries. And last night I spoke about it at length at the launch of the book by President Obasanjo from Nigeria at LASC with Prime Minister Patterson. And it is not going to happen overnight, but the Talmud, Billy Miller taught me this when I was a young girl in politics. And it's a line that comes from the Talmud, the Jewish holy book. that we are not expected to complete the task, but neither are we at liberty to resile from it. We have to run our leg of the relay. And the truth is that some of us will come on and some of us will drop off at different points. But the context of mission, and that's why we have framed as a government the 6 missions. The mission to keep this country clean and beautiful, whether it is land or our oceans. The mission to raise the self-esteem and to allow Bajans to look in the mirror and feel confident about themselves and know that they are as good as anybody else and nobody else is better than them. And therefore you have a legitimate right to speak up when the doctor asks you what is wrong with you, rather than looking to your parent to ask whether you can talk. Thirdly, that we have a right and we have a duty, to ensure that everybody has access to food and water in this country. Fourthly, that we have a duty to reduce crime and to increase public safety by at least 50% between now and 2030. It is possible. It is possible. Fifthly, that we have to remember that we have to live to enfranchise and empower our people. I've just spoken about the horrors of the located labor system and that going in for almost 100 years from emancipation. And that is why what was done by successive governments, but in particular Tom Adams with the Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act, is so critical because it allowed us to enfranchise people so that they could fix a house and get the land at next kin to nothing, which meant that they therefore had a stake in the society, in the community, in the democracy, in a way that if they were only tenants, they became liable to be shifted about and moved about at will. And I say successive governments because Mr. Barrow would have put the arrangements in place first to protect them and stop people from moving them about. And Tom then came and gave them the right to be able to buy the land at 10 cents a square foot. And it is still that price today, cheaper than a pair of sneakers. And sixthly, you cannot live in this world without having appreciation for conversion to the digital community. We live in a digital world. In 1900, Barbados had 200 primary schools and 6 secondary schools and a university on 166 square miles. 200 primary schools. We're down to just over 60 now, I believe, and we have 21, 22 secondary schools, and of course we have University of the West Indies, but we equally have the same Codrington College that was affiliated years ago, decades ago, with Durham University. I say that because that is not the limit of our educational system anymore. And the gentleman who spoke earlier about Coursera, we pay, and I want to repeat it because I want more Bajans to use it. We pay to allow Bajans to access 15,000 courses on Coursera free of charge. There are not many other countries in the world that create that opportunity and platform for its people. And why do we do it? Because we know that the vicissitudes of life may mean that you may not be able to find the time to do the studying that you need to do in the time that the University of the West Indies can give you or Barbados Community College can give you. But you can still go and do it in your own time and in your own space. You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning or you go to sleep at 2 o'clock, whatever you choose to do. But you're doing it and you're doing it at your own pace and you're getting the qualifications so that we have more people proud of themselves, able to give back to the society and able to uplift themselves and their family. So thank you. Let us have a blessed and happy and safe crop over. And let us look forward to continuing to work this project called Barbados. After November 30th comes what? December 1st. And from December 1st, we will be entering our 60th year, our diamond year. And we all know that we should not waste that opportunity. So let us start to think about how we will make December 1st, 2025 to November 30th, 2026 special and lasting, not for us, but for the young generation and the ones coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you all very much for coming, for sharing, for participating. Before you leave, remember the next stop is St. Andrew. So it's been mine. So when I say welcome to St. Andrew this time, it will be genuine. Alicia, please, before you leave, could you go over to the other door, please? There is Miss Victor over there with an issue that we need to resolve. I wanted her to speak with the CEO of the National Housing Corporation, but he reported that he's not feeling well. So we need to get some information from her so we can put her in contact with him first thing tomorrow. So please take care of that for me. Thank you very much, folks. Have a good night. Get home safely.